What if the dead could speak, through a phone? When Menglong's lost device was finally recovered, no one expected what they were about to uncover. Hidden inside were fragments of sound, distorted images, and a truth too terrifying to imagine. Each file was a heartbeat from his final moments, a digital witness to something darker than anyone dared believe. Let's dive in and uncover the horrifying reality together. Rain had stopped hours ago, yet the smell of it still clung to the concrete outside the old apartment block where Menglong had lived his last days. The building itself looked exhausted, windows half-fogged, corridors humming with the same kind of silence that follows tragedy. For 73 days, door of apartment 1207 had remained sealed by police tape, a pale yellow reminder that someone's story had ended there. That was until tonight. At precisely 9:42 p.m., two forensic technicians crouched beside the air vent just above the broken heater. The tip of a flashlight caught a faint metallic edge. One of them reached in with gloved fingers and pulled out a dust-coated object, a phone, cracked, lifeless, but miraculously intact. Spoke. They all knew what this meant. The device that had vanished the night Menglong died had finally returned. If the dead could speak, through a phone, someone murmured. The words hung heavy in the air. The phone was sealed, logged, and transported to the digital forensics lab across the river. By dawn, its ghost had begun to whisper. Menglong's death had never sat comfortably with the public. The official statement had been painfully simple: suicide caused by emotional distress. The police cited a note, short, impersonal, typed in haste. Yet fans refused to believe it. It was the same actor who had spent the previous week rehearsing for a new drama, sending playful messages to colleagues, posting a selfie caption, "Tomorrow's a new start." Tomorrow never came. The morning of his death, the doorman heard a loud thud around 3 a.m. 12 minutes later, a neighbor called the authorities after smelling smoke. When first responders arrived, they found Menglong unconscious, a toppled lamp still flickering beside him. The autopsy concluded poisoning. Case closed, the headlines declared. But something about the timing, the missing phone, and the disabled CCTV feed suggested otherwise. They called it the silent case. For 2 months the internet refused to let the silence stand. Fans uploaded tribute videos. Others dissected inconsistencies in police reports. Even veteran journalists admitted the details felt staged. Then, without warning, the phone appeared. When investigators powered it on, the screen flared to life for the first time in 73 days. The wallpaper, an image of a sunrise over Hangzhou, looked strangely intact. But the battery percentage read 1%. Frozen like a heartbeat that refused to die. They connected it to power. The home screen blinked twice, then flooded with notifications, missed calls, unsent messages, and an audio file titled simply "If you're watching this." The technician hesitated, then pressed play. Static filled the speakers, followed by slow, uneven breathing. Then a voice, faint but unmistakable. "If you're watching this, it's already too late." Everyone in the room froze. The voice belonged to Menglong. The recording cut abruptly after 4 seconds. But it was enough to reignite every unanswered question. Had been too late. And who was he speaking to? News leaked before noon. Within hours, the phrase Menglong's phone found dominated every major search engine. Broadcast trucks camped outside the police station. Hashtags multiplied, "Truth off Menglong, the phone speaks." Silent case reopened. But inside the lab, investigators were discovering more than the public could imagine. Dozens of voice memos dated between February 2nd and February 5th, the 3 days before his death, revealed fragmented thoughts, whispered confessions, and cryptic warnings. One clip he muttered. "They said I should stay quiet. They said accidents make better endings." Another contained nothing but the sound of footsteps, a door creaking, and the faintest trace of another man's voice saying, "Should record this." None of it made sense yet, but together it painted a portrait of terror. By evening, reporters had pieced together a timeline. On February 2nd, Menglong had cancelled a dinner meeting with his manager, citing illness. The next day he visited a convenience store near his apartment and bought a disposable camera and 2 notebooks. CCTV confirmed this. But the footage from his building's elevator mysteriously stopped working 10 minutes before he entered. When neighbors saw him later that night, he looked pale, disoriented. "Light." He smiled. one neighbor said. But his eyes, it was like he was seeing something behind you. The last confirmed text he sent read, "Don't worry. I'm fine. Just noise in my head." No one replied, his message never delivered. In the digital forensics lab, every recovered byte felt like peeling skin from bone. Out of nearly 10,000 deleted files, only 8,500 were retrievable. Photos of scripts, screenshots of chat logs, edited voice memos recorded between takes on set. But hidden deep in a folder labeled Private Records was a single video. Timestamp, February 5, 2:47 a.m. Duration, 1 minute 18 seconds. The clip opened on a shaky image of Menglong's reflection in a mirror. He looked exhausted, eyes rimmed with red, hand trembling as he held a phone. "If anyone sees this," he began, then paused. "I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted the truth out." A crash echoed from somewhere off-screen. He turned abruptly toward the sound. "They're here," he whispered. The image blurred as he stumbled backward, and then, darkness. When the light returned, the phone was lying sideways on the floor. Two shadows moved across the wall. The clip ended with the same heavy breathing heard in the first file. Investigators stared at the monitor, unable to speak. One of them finally muttered, he wasn't alone. The leak was inevitable. By the next morning, fragments of the footage had surfaced online, though the official version was withheld. Grainy screenshots and fan-made restorations spread like wildfire. Conspiracy channels broke down every frame, tracing reflections, measuring footsteps, matching voices. Some insisted the intruder was a stalker, others blamed his management agency, claiming he had threatened to expose internal corruption. Whatever the truth, the video changed everything. No longer a suicide, now it was a murder mystery. The following week, Red Carpet released an exclusive report, Menglong's recovered phone, evidence of fear. The article detailed the timeline, the recovered data, and expert opinions suggesting the footage had not been staged. The publication received millions of hits within hours, forcing the police to reopen the case. Public pressure mounted. Candlelight vigils appeared in multiple cities. Fans printed banners that read, "He filmed the truth. We'll finish the story." Yet behind the public grief lurks something darker, rumors that two witnesses connected to the case had gone missing. The second autopsy revealed microscopic traces of a sedative not listed in the original report. The dosage matched a prescription registered under a pseudonym later linked to a production assistant on Menglong's last film. When questioned, the assistant vanished. One detective, speaking anonymously, admitted to reporters, "We're dealing with something larger than one death." The phone didn't just record a crime, it recorded a cover-up. 3 nights later, an anonymous email arrived in the newsroom of Red Carpet revealed. The subject line read, "For the ones who believed him." Attached was an encrypted folder containing what appeared to be backups of Menglong's deleted texts. When decrypted, the messages formed a chilling diary. "February 1st I signed it. They said I'd lose everything if I didn't. February 2nd I keep hearing them outside the door. February 3rd tell Irene I'm sorry. She'll understand. February 5th recording now. If something happens, find the phone." The final message had never been sent. The phone had obeyed. By now, the case had spiraled beyond control. Government officials urged calm, warning the public against false speculation. But silence only deepened suspicion. Journalists began tracing the network of companies tied to Menglong's last film project, The Fallen Star. The production had suffered a fatal on-set accident the previous year, killing a stunt performer. Rumors claimed Menglong had privately kept footage of the incident and intended to release it. If true, it would explain everything: the threats, the fear, the phone. Meanwhile, forensic teams continued extracting data. Among the final recovered files was a corrupted audio log labeled 0423. It took 2 days to repair. When it finally played, the sound of heavy rain filled the speakers, followed by Menglong's voice, calm yet resigned. "They said they'd destroy everything if I talked. Maybe they already have. But if anyone finds this, don't let them say it was suicide. I was scared. Yes, but not of dying. I was scared of being forgotten." The file ended with a sudden thud. Then a faint clicking sound, like someone tapping the microphone twice. Forensic analysts confirmed that the noise matched the same rhythm found at the end of the mirror video. A signal. A mark. A final message left in code. The revelation sent shockwaves through the entire industry. Former co-stars, directors, and crew members began releasing statements of support. Actress Song Yaron, his longtime friend, broke down during a live interview. He wasn't paranoid. He told me months ago he had proof of something. I thought he was exaggerating. Her tears reignited national outrage. Demanded justice. Others demanded silence. Sponsors pulled their advertisements. Police promised swift updates. But behind the scenes, even they were terrified. Because that night, one of the lead investigators, Officer Lee, received a text from an unknown number. Contained a single line. Stop digging, or we'll bury another phone. Outside, the crowds kept gathering. They brought flowers, notes, and paper cranes. The glow of candles flickered like tiny screens beneath the night sky. Somewhere amid them, a fan held a sign that read, "Truth doesn't need a pulse." The phrase spread online, becoming the new motto of the movement. Inside the newsroom, the reporters of Red Carpet Revealed were piecing together a timeline for their next exposé. One of them, reviewing the recovered files, noticed something odd. The audio clicks at the end of each recording weren't random, they formed a pattern. 3 short taps. Pause. Too long. A code. Morse translation, SOS. Menglong hadn't just recorded his fear. He'd recorded a plea for help. Midnight approached. The investigation had stalled. The police under pressure. The world still waiting for an answer. Then a courier arrived at the newsroom carrying a small black envelope. No return address. Inside was a USB drive and a note written in hurried strokes. "Play this when you're ready for the truth." The team hesitated, exchanging glances. They plugged it in. The video began with darkness. Static. Slowly, an image emerged, Menglong sitting by the window of his apartment. Rain lashing against the glass. The timestamp showed the night before his death. He looked straight into the camera. "They think truth dies with me," he whispered. "But truth doesn't need me alive to survive." He reached toward the camera, as if trying to hand it something. The frame shook, blurring into white noise. Then, a faint voice off-screen, "Turn it off." Bended. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the hum of computers and the soft rhythm of rain outside the office window. Finally, the editor said, "Publish it." Like that, the countdown to revelation began. In less than 24 hours, the footage would go public. Less than 24 hours. The world would see the final 12 minutes of Menglong's life. But for now, the newsroom sat in silence, staring at the last frame frozen on the screen, his eyes, wide but unafraid, looking straight into theirs. And somewhere, in the shadowed corridors of power, the people who wanted the truth buried were already preparing to strike again. The phone had spoken. The question now was, who would listen? The morning the footage went live, the internet stopped behaving like the internet. 8 a.m. Seoul time. The servers of Red Carpet Revealed groaned under the weight of millions of refreshes. When the countdown hit 0, the black screen dissolved into Menglong's final video. For 1 minute and 12 seconds, the world watched in silence. By the time it ended, hashtags had already reached 500 million impressions. The clip was brutally simple, no music, no commentary, just Menglong. Rain outside his window, whispering, "They think truth dies with me." The off-screen voice. Then white noise. Within hours, every network was running emergency segments. Commentators argued over its authenticity. Agencies released statements of denial. Government appealed for digital restraint. But restraint had long died with the illusion. Inside the newsroom, the team watched as views soared past 50 million. None of them celebrated. The editor simply whispered, "Storm begins." Outside, the storm had a name. Protesters filled Hongdae Square carrying posters of the actor's face. The words he recorded truth stenciled in blood-red paint. Candles flickered against the evening wind. Marched toward the broadcasting agency believed to have suppressed his evidence, chanting, "Justice for Menglong." Investigators reopened the apartment once more. Every inch was combed again. Behind a false panel in the wall, they found an SD card wrapped in tape. The handwriting on it matched Menglong's. On its surface, one phrase, "Backup, do not delete." The files were duplicates of the ones on the phone, but with something extra, a folder named Set Footage. It contained behind-the-scenes videos from the Fallon star, the film he had been working on before his death. One particular clip showed a stunt rehearsal gone wrong, a pyrotechnic explosion triggered too early, engulfing a background performer. The crew screamed, the camera shook violently, someone yelled, "Keep it rolling." The injured actor was never mentioned again in official reports. When analysts compared the voices, the person shouting "Keep it rolling" matched the same timbre as the man heard off-screen in Menglong's final video. That was the first proof linking his death to the accident cover-up. The second came from the phone's geolocation history. A week before his death, Menglong's device had pinged repeatedly near an abandoned warehouse belonging to the same studio. Security logs later confirmed unauthorized nighttime access under a fake ID. He hadn't been hiding, he'd been collecting evidence. Someone had found out. 2 days after the video release, the newsroom received another anonymous message. Subject: "You missed one." Attached was a still frame extracted from surveillance footage dated February 5, 2:42 a.m. 5 minutes before his death. The image showed the corridor outside his apartment. A man in a raincoat stood facing the camera, his head bowed. The timestamp matched a moment the CCTV had supposedly gone dark. Forensic enhancement revealed enough of his face to identify him, the same production assistant linked to the sedative prescription. By evening, police announced an arrest warrant. The assistant had already vanished across the border. The investigation widened, dragging in names once thought untouchable, executives, sponsors, even a government liaison connected to the studio. Another statement, another denial, another apology crafted by lawyers. Yet the public's hunger for the unfiltered truth only grew. Television channels replayed Menglong's whisper on a loop, "Truth doesn't need me alive to survive." Students printed it on t-shirts. Activists projected it onto skyscrapers. It had begun as a tragedy was turning into reckoning. Still, in the middle of the movement, Song Yiren remained painfully quiet. Others camped outside her home until, finally, she stepped out, dressed in black, holding a letter. Her voice shook as she read. "He once told me that fame is just noise until it's gone. Now that the noise has stopped, I can finally hear him." The crowd fell silent. Some cried. Others recorded. Her words trended worldwide under "Hear Him Now." At the police archive, digital analysts discovered one final subfolder inside the backup SD card. It required a password. The name field simply read to Y. At first they assumed it referred to Yiren. After several failed attempts, one technician typed a guess, "Truth." Files opened. There were 3 short clips, each one darker than the last. The first showed the stunt rehearsal again, this time from a different angle, filmed by Menglong himself. The second showed a private meeting in a hotel room, the director and 2 executives discussing how to contain the narrative. The third was shorter, just 6 seconds of Menglong placing the camera down, whispering, "If they find this proof, keep it safe." He looked directly into the lens, as if speaking to someone beyond the future. At that exact hour, another message appeared on red carpet revealed private inbox. It contained GPS coordinates and a single line, "He left more than files." The coordinates pointed to a cemetery on the outskirts of Beijing. Beneath an unmarked stone, investigators found a waterproof box containing a voice recorder and a note. "For Yiren. For those who believe in silence too much." When they pressed play, the recorder clicked twice. Then his voice emerged, clearer than any other time. "I forgave them before I died. But forgiveness isn't freedom. If this reaches you, don't mourn me, finish what I started." Static swallowed the rest. The newsroom played the audio that night. No one spoke for a long while. Then the editor whispered, "He's still directing the story." Outside, thunder rolled over the city. The first time, it didn't sound like fear. It sounded like awakening. The next 48 hours turned the investigation into a national reckoning. Every major outlet replayed the recovered voice clip, those final words, "Finish what I started." No longer felt like the whisper of a ghost, it was a directive. By dawn, police units raided 3 production offices tied to the Fallen Star. Boxes of shredded contracts, falsified insurance papers, and bribe ledgers poured out like confessions. In one of the drawers lay a memory card labeled "Cut to Safe." When decrypted, it revealed the full unedited footage of the stunt explosion, the same moment that had killed the background performer. This version, unlike the sanitized one in official archives, contained the shout, If anyone uploads this, they'll end up like Menglong. The phrase froze investigators. Someone had already planned what would happen to him long before his death. That evening, Red Carpet Revealed received an injunction demanding they remove all files related to the case. Newsroom refused. He died to be heard, the editor told the legal representative. And we're not muting him again, within an hour. Stand with RCR trended worldwide. Government spokespersons attempted damage control. The tragedy is an internal industry matter. But public anger had already breached containment. Universities held vigils, independent filmmakers screened the recovered footage in protest. The once untouchable entertainment empire that had manufactured illusions for decades was cracking under the weight of one man's truth. Amid the chaos, Song Yiren traveled to the seaside town where Yu Menglong had filmed his first drama years earlier. Cameras followed her every step. She ignored them. On the pier, she placed a small phone charm, a tiny silver star, on the railing and whispered, "You did it. They can't erase you anymore." Her quiet act became the image of the week, a single woman standing against a horizon, wind whipping her hair. A relic of friendship. That photo would later win a journalism award. Though she never accepted the honor. "It wasn't about me," she said. "It was about someone who refused to stay silent." Behind closed doors, the arrests began. The assistant who had fled across the border was caught at a checkpoint carrying multiple fake passports. The director of the Fallen Star resigned under investigation. Executives released statements dripping with remorse. Yet none could explain the chain of intimidation that led to Menglong's final hours. Forensic analysts presented their timeline. Threats began the week he retrieved the stunt footage. 2 attempts were made to wipe his devices. On the night of February 5th. 3 phones connected to the building's Wi-Fi besides his own. At 02:43 a.m., all signals but his went dark. When asked whether that implied murder, the lead investigator paused. "Let's just say," he replied, "it wasn't suicide." The phrase detonated across news feeds. The trial that followed was televised in fragments. Enough to satisfy the public's hunger but not enough to reveal every secret. Testimony after testimony described the culture of fear, actors coerced into silence. Evidence bought and buried. Yet whenever Yu Menglong's recordings played in court, even the lawyers stopped taking notes. His voice filled the room like something holy. "They said accidents make better endings," he'd said in one file. "For their stories, not mine." Each playback felt like he was testifying from beyond the grave. By the 5th day, the presiding judge ordered a recess. "This case," she said, "is not about a single death. It is about the value of truth in a world built on performance." Outside the courthouse, thousands gathered with candles. Some carried posters of film reels unspooling into light, others held up their phones flashing the words "Truth has a signal." A low chant began, soft at first, then thunderous. "Menglong. Menglong. Menglong." It wasn't mourning anymore. It was resurrection. When verdicts arrived, they were both shocking and inevitable. The production assistant received a life sentence. 2 executives were convicted of obstruction and conspiracy. The director avoided prison through a plea deal but was banned from the industry for life. And as the judge read the closing line, "Let this case remind us that silence is the most dangerous accomplice," a hush blanketed the courtroom. Song Yiren, sitting in the front row, her palms together and wept. That night, rain returned to Seoul. On the steps of Red Carpet Revealed, the editor addressed the crowd. He didn't want fame. He wanted truth. Tonight, truth won. Applause broke through the downpour. Lightning flashed over the skyline, illuminating the faces of strangers bound together by one story that refused to die. Yet even as justice was served, questions lingered. Who sent the anonymous messages? Who risked everything to leak the files? Some believed it was an insider consumed by guilt. Others whispered about a second device still hidden somewhere, a phone that contained the full conversation between Yu Menglong and the man who confronted him that night. Whether myth or reality, idea kept his legend alive, that perhaps, somewhere, another signal was still waiting to be found. Arrived quietly that year. Cherry blossoms spilled over the streets of Seoul, pale and trembling like the memory of snow. The first time since the scandal. The city breathed without shouting. Yet the silence felt different, no longer fear, but reflection. Billboards once plastered with glossy dramas now displayed a single public message: truth first. It wasn't a campaign. It was a promise. Inside universities, students screened the Fallen Star, uncut. The restored version assembled from Menglong's recovered files. No glamour. No edits, just raw footage. Behind the illusion. Each showing ended with the same closing title card. Dedicated to those who recorded when they were told to forget. Audiences left in tears. Wrote letters to their favorite actors, thanking them for existing beyond the mask. Others simply stood outside theaters, staring at the posters as if waiting for Menglong himself to step out and bow. In the months following the verdict, the entertainment industry underwent an earthquake of conscience. Major studios introduced transparency charters, pledging independent audits of every production accident. Unions demanded safe working conditions, lower protections, and creative rights for performers. The government, once silent, established a permanent Cultural Ethics Council informally nicknamed the Menglong Committee. At red carpet revealed, journalists still worked late nights. The tone had shifted from frenzy to reverence. On one wall hung the final frame of Menglong's video, his eyes lit by the reflection of his phone. Beneath it, the editor had scrawled in marker, "Truth doesn't need a pulse." Whenever fatigue threatened, they looked at that image and remembered why they were still writing. Song Yiren disappeared from screens for half a year. Rumors said she'd moved abroad, others believed she'd joined a volunteer theater troupe. When she finally resurfaced, it wasn't in a blockbuster but a small stage play titled The Last Recording. In it, she portrayed a woman haunted by the voice of the man who died telling the truth. Every performance ended with her whispering into the darkness, "I hear you." Critics called it a conversation between the living and the dead. Audiences called it healing. After one performance, she addressed the crowd directly. "He once said that cameras only see what you show them. But now we've learned, they can also reveal what we hide. For that, I thank him." Applause thundered through the small theater, echoing long after she left the stage. Meanwhile, across Asia, filmmakers began dedicating projects to Menglong's memory. A Japanese director produced Sino Lost, a film inspired by his story. In Thailand, student documentary titled When Phones Remember won international awards. And in China, an annual short film festival adopted a new theme each year, Truth Through Lens. He had become a symbol not of tragedy, but of transformation. Yet for those who had known him personally, fame's resurrection carried its own ache. His mother, who had refused all interviews, finally agreed to one quiet conversation. Held his old script notebook, pages curled with use. He always wrote endings in pencil, she said. He liked the idea that they could change. When the journalist asked whether she believed he was at peace, she smiled softly. "He's still working," she said. "Just not here." On the first anniversary of his death, crowds gathered at the same coastal pier where Yiren had once left the Silver Star charm. This time she returned with thousands of fans. Brought flowers, notes, and phones, hundreds of them, playing snippets of his recovered audio. Together, their screens formed a constellation of light over the dark water. At midnight, someone projected his face against the clouds. Wind carried his voice from hidden speakers. "If anyone finds this, don't mourn me. Remember what fear looks like, and don't become it." The crowd repeated the line until it blended with the waves. In that moment, it didn't matter whether the voice came from a file or from memory. It felt alive. Later that night, in a quiet corner of the city, a new message appeared on red carpet revealed encrypted inbox. No signature. No coordinates this time. Just a text file named after light.txt. Read. There was another recording. But it wasn't on any device. It lives wherever people refuse to forget. If they keep listening, the story never ends. The team debated authenticity, but ultimately decided not to publish it. Some truths, they agreed, belong to the collective imagination, a myth that keeps justice awake. Still, one reporter printed the message and taped it beside Menglong's photograph. As the year closed, entertainment networks counted their losses and their lessons. Ratings dipped, but credibility rose. For once, audiences trusted again, not perfection, but honesty. The culture had shifted, subtly yet seismic. Children learning filmmaking in classrooms spoke his name as naturally as they spoke camera or script. Professors quoted his line, "Truth doesn't need me alive to survive," during lectures on media ethics. And every time a production accident was reported transparently, someone online commented simply, "He would have smiled." One winter evening, Song Yiren visited Red Carpet revealed unannounced. She handed the editor a small sealed box. Inside lay a new smartphone, black, unregistered. Its wallpaper showed the same Hangzhou sunrise as Yu Menglong's. She said quietly, "He used to say every story deserves a continuation. This is yours." Before anyone could respond, she was gone. They never turned the phone on. It stayed in the newsroom glass case beside his cracked original. Silent witnesses facing each other across time. Visitors asked why they didn't power it. The editor always answered the same. Because the story is already speaking. Screens have dimmed now. The hashtags have faded into archives. But somewhere between the static of memory and the pulse of truth, Yu Menglong's voice still lingers, soft, steady, eternal. His story began with a phone buried in dust and ended with an entire world listening. What was once just evidence became something greater, a reminder that truth can survive even the hands that try to bury it. Didn't leave behind an ending, he left behind a question. Many stories die because no one dares to record them. And maybe that's why people still whisper his name, not out of sorrow, but out of respect. Because every time someone chooses honesty over convenience, courage over silence, he lives again, through them, through us. Through every camera that dares to stay on when it's easier to look away. The night that once swallowed his breath has now become light for countless others. In that glow, his final words echo like a heartbeat that refuses to fade. Truth doesn't need a pulse. As long as that truth keeps moving from one soul to another, he will never truly be gone. To every reader who followed this journey, thank you. Thank you for staying through the darkness. For listening to the silence between the lines. And for believing that even fiction can carry fragments of something real. This story is dedicated not only to Yu Menglong's memory, but to everyone who has ever been afraid to speak. Has been told that truth is too dangerous or too inconvenient. May you find your voice. May you find your courage. May you never forget that stories like his are not just written to shock, they are written to wake us up. To the audience who shared, cried, debated, remembered, your attention gave meaning to every word. To the journalists and storytellers who keep searching even when the world says stop. Your persistence is the quiet revolution that changes everything. And to those who fight for transparency in art and life, this one is for you. Because sometimes, the bravest act isn't shouting in protest. It's whispering the truth, and letting it echo. Thank you for listening. Thank you for remembering. Thank you for keeping the signal alive.